This is Carol.
Hey, Carol. How
I
do you?
have I have a couple questions. First
Sure.
of all, you showed pussy toes. Did you have you gotten caterpillars on your pussy toes yet? Because
Very
I
few,
have not.
very few. They're there. And in a couple of cases where I saw them yesterday, I didn't see them today.
Yeah.
And I think the birds, and as Sonia points out on hers, there's always a spider lurking. We think that it's a low, low year, and it's alarming, but there's nothing we can do about it. You know,
I'm really bummed. I had a lot last year and
yeah, the first year that
Well,
we
we're
planted Pussy's
yeah.
Toes at the library garden where we were this week, um, they were loaded. There were so many caterpillars on it that they ate the flowers and the leaves. Everything just got eaten out. But this year, if we went out there right now, we'd see three or four.
I didn't notice any outfits with Sonia's.
Yeah, and then the next day we might see two. So we think it's a predator year for those guys. Um,
okay. The second is I have some woodland phlox
uh-huh.
that look beautiful for, 3, 4 weeks. And now all those flowers are brown. How far down, first of all, how far down can I cut them
You can
to
cut
get
it.
rid of
Yeah,
that ugliness?
you can take the whole top off of them. They're going to grow some new foliage from the base.
Okay. And this is at a project that I'm working on. So there's now common milkweed and goldenrod, the not Canada goldenrod growing through it. Can I dig those up and look for the roots of the milkweed and the goldenrod and
Oh
strip
yeah,
those
yeah,
out
you can
and replant? And is now a good time to do that, or should I wait?
because it's still being relatively cool. Now's a good time. It wouldn't be such a great time if it was into the heat of summer, but sure, a good time now. It'd be nice if the ground was moist. So as you do it, water before you plant because it was dust dry where we were planting Wednesday, dust dry.
Yeah, and the milkweed goes down quite deep. I can't remember in the Solidago, but
Yeah, when you peel the flocks out, the roots look quite different between milkweed, goldenrod. Milkweed and goldenrod both have a quite a white root, and it gets very thick. The um, the creeping phlox has a small root, and it's more brownish color, brown tan. But you're going to be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, I thought I know what the goldenrod and milkweed root look like. I've never moved the phlox, so I don't, I haven't paid any attention to that
Yeah,
root. But
it's a fairly good time to get it moved because it's going to kind of cycle through. I'm done blooming. Now I'm going to make seeds. If you cut the tops off and move it, it's not going to put the energy into seeds. It's going to put the energy into getting itself reestablished.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
you
Let's see who else came in
Judith
here.
is here.
Hi, Martha. Hi, Judith. Judith, you had a question. We just fired up the internet to go online and saw that you'd sent an email question, but I didn't see it yesterday when I was checking things out, so you'll have to tell us about it now.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep, you're
I'm
there.
actually outside. Okay,
Oh,
so I just transplanted some tomatoes into my raised bed, which has had some soil problems. And um, very, very quickly, the bottom leaves of the tomatoes started showing basically holes and bumps, kind of reddish, uh, possibly borers. I'm not quite sure.
on the
The
bottom leaf, on the bottom
Yeah,
leaf.
yeah, on the bottom leaves. I sent you pictures too.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't download those. We were running around getting the other pictures ready, so I'll have to look at them a little bit later.
So
It
they're kind of reddish. The upper growth doesn't have any bumps yet, but that doesn't mean anything. And the tomatoes that were not transplanted planted don't show any sign of these holes and bumps.
Yeah, you might be looking at a nutrient deficiency.
Oh,
So
really?
we've been looking at, yeah, and if you transplanted it, although you try really hard to not disturb any of the roots, some of the root tips break off. And right now there's because the soil has been cold, like out here, and we're at our daughter Sonia's house, and we've been out messing around in her garden. She couldn't wait. She just said, I've got to do it, and put her plants in. And even those that can handle the cold, at least when they get grown up, like kale and whatever, are showing deficiencies because their roots are just not taking up nutrients because the microorganisms in the soil aren't giving those nutrients. So if you reduce the roots a little bit, well then, and reddish. I can't remember, but I think reddish might be manganese deficiency. I've got a book at home that has all the terrible things that can happen to tomatoes. And it's meant for growers in a greenhouse where they are managing the micronutrients and the nutrients quite closely. So it has for them pictures of, if you've got a manganese deficiency, if you've got a phosphorus deficiency, which leaves and what colors they turn. But I think it might just be a function of the soil not yet being the kind of warm that those kind of plants like. Potatoes have got it worse. And what's the other one? Oh, eggplant. It's another one. Now it's in the same family as potatoes and tomatoes, but the eggplant is just is pitiful out there. It's just crying. So I think you can take those leaves off if you want to, but they're not hurting anything. I doubt very much they're hurting anything.
Wow, what a relief. That's great. But the other tomatoes are sitting on the deck. They're in the same temperature as the ones that went into the ground. They're just not in the ground.
No, not the top, the temperature of the soil.
It's the soil.
Your ones that are on the deck are in potting mix, aren't they?
Okay. Yeah. And I planted them with, pardon me?
And in pots, so the pot gets warm itself.
Yeah, because we're talking about the nutrients in the soil, like daylilies. Daylilies are kind of on the dumb side as plants go. They come up the first chance they can come up in the spring, and they quite often come up pretty pale. And that's because there's not any nitrogen being released in the soil yet, because the soil fungi and soil bacteria aren't active yet. So you've put the one tomato into really a very different environment than the ones that are in the potting mix.
So, okay. So I did plant them with Espoma tomato fertilizer and with a side dressing of nitrogen and maybe even a little bit of phosphorus.
Slow release or standard salt-based fertilizer? Was it granular or powder?
It was Espoma, so I'm not quite sure which one is.
That's slow release, and so those nutrients are not going to be available until the microbiota in the soil works on them.
Okay, and then the nitrogen is bone meal.
Yep. So that's all of those organic. Those are good sources because they feed the soil and humus in the soil as well as feed the plant. But all of those have to be acted on by microorganisms and digested by the microorganisms, and then their excretions contain the nitrogen and the phosphorus. The plants can't take them directly from those slower release organic materials.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, I don't have to despair of them. I just need to get rid of the bottom leaves and hope that it stays consistently June-like weather.
Yes, yeah. Right now, we're not in June-like weather in Guelph, that's for sure.
It barely got to 65 today.
I've been wearing a sweatshirt all day long, so good luck. I hope you get there before we do.
Yeah, no, we're in the maybe low 70s, high 60s right now. It was warm and now it's cold, and so it's just not very consistent right now.
No.
Yeah, it's
Here
not.
in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and it has been a slow, cool spring. We've just started seeing crabgrass germinating, and crabgrass for us is usually June 1st. June 1st, crabgrass all over the place, and it's just and even at that, it's only germinating out in the patio where the stones are making it warmer. Yeah. So give it a little bit of time.
Okay.
This is reminding me of our neighbor at the old house, Fred.
Yeah.
Fred had to have the first tomato in the neighborhood. It was his goal every year. I'm going to have the first striped tomato on my plant. So he would push the envelope and plant those plants out early. One year he bought wall of water and had the wall of water around it to keep it closed in. Other times he made little raised beds, and he did. One day I was out in the backyard and I noticed Anne, his wife, was out there, and she was kind of sneaking back from the back where the vegetable garden was toward the house. And I called out, "Anne," and she jumped. She said, "Oh, it's you." I said, "Well, who are you expecting?" She said, I just don't tell Fred. I just put a tomato on his plant. And when he comes home from work, I'm hoping he's going to find it. So of course, I had to tell Jean, the garden behind us, and then we just all had to happen to be standing in the corner of the yard where the 3 yards come together, talking and really waiting to see Fred come out. And he did. He came out walking, still dressed in his suit. He used to be a men's clothing salesman or manager, and he came out still in his suit, holding a cup of coffee, walking across the yard, and he kind of stopped halfway across the yard and looked and then sped up. And he didn't say it. I think maybe because Jean and I were out there watching. He didn't say anything to Anne, but I bet he did later.
I bet
It was very funny.
she heard it. Yeah.
He almost always did have the first tomato, but his plants looked terrible because they'd been through the ringer.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I hope yours bear very well for you.
Well, I hope so. That garden soil is always a little problematic. It got too much composted cow manure, and so it's just problematic. Too much phosphorus, maybe not enough other things, and I'm afraid to put anything but organic compost on it. Organic compost would be better, right?
Organic it's almost always
Yeah.
better. There are times when you're getting something to recover or you're looking at a micronutrient deficiency, but I think your soil test came back with your phosphorus was way high.
Yeah. 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I haven't composted since.
Yeah.
Okay. This terrible picture that you've been looking at, I did not see if Sue was here, but I know I answered Sue. She said, my phlox, it's been good for almost 15 years, and look at what it did this year. Creeping phlox, actually a great number of plants, but creeping phlox on a higher level are susceptible to root knot nematodes. These are microscopic worm-related, not worm, the earthworm, but worm as in the parasitic worms that dogs get and people can get through bare feet or whatever. These microscopic worms, nematodes, move into the roots and use the starch that the leaves are making to continue their life. And in doing it, they irritate the root. And if you take this phlox out, you'll see that the roots are deformed. They look a little bit. I had a friend in school whose mother had rheumatoid arthritis, and her hands always made me just want to cry because they were bent and the knuckles were enlarged, and that's what the roots will look like. And if you get your phlox looking like this, you can plant a new phlox in there. The chances are real good that these soil-borne, soil-living pests are still there and are going to invade the plant. So you're better off to switch out of the family. And the phlox family, it's a big family, but there's a lot of other low ground covers. Like in the mint family, you've got thyme and you've got germander, but switch for a while because it's gotten worn out. They treat fields where they grow phlox in fields. I mean, literally just put the plants out. Looks like sod growing in the field. They will treat those fields with methyl bromide, which is in a gas form. They inject it into the soil underneath black plastic, and they kill everything in the top 3 or 4 inches of soil in order to be able to continue growing phlox there. And I don't want anybody to do that to their home garden. It sterilizes the garden.
No.
Yeah, no. Go ahead. Marion said she is just plain fed up with this over mulching of plants. She's taken the volcano mulch away from some trees. She said, and what I found underneath are all these adventitious roots. Is it worth cutting them, or are these trees too gone? It's worth cutting them.
Oh, especially that little one right there. You can cut that one.
Yeah. I just tell people when you cut
it
right there. Yeah. When you cut it, don't put your body here. Don't look at the root this way and cut with your left hand where it's joining the trunk. Get over here and chisel, or cut from there, because sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but that root's under a lot of pressure as the tree's been growing out against it. And sometimes they can pop out at you and it hurts.
Go ahead, one picture.
Go ahead. Oh, shoot, I'm reaching for the
Oh,
screen.
here, I'm telling. Oh, we both did it.
Oh, you didn't want to go too?
No. See, there's a root right here.
Yeah, and that one needs that.
This is the one this will cause problems, but this one already is.
Yeah, and I doubt you're going to be able to get that one out.
No.
I have chiseled some of those out, and one time it took me hours. I was working on a ginkgo, and I was so pleased with myself because I got the root out, and then I was able to peel out its bark, and the bark of the tree was still there underneath. But it took forever, and I'm not sure that the tree really benefited from it. When you have a
Yeah.
root that big wrapped around, the chances are real good that there's another flare root wrapped someplace else on and making the
just
tree flat.
hope the tree survives. That's all.
Yeah.
Just keep working at it.
So are there any questions in the group
Well,
that's
it's
here?
time. It's after 7.
Oh my gosh. Well then,
5 after 7.
then we'll tell everybody who's here. Keep that microphone muted and your video off until you raise your hand, or you can chat if you don't want to talk out loud. Steve, you got so much in the screen, I can't tell what I'm saying. Can you close the chat too? Trust it. It's going to work. Okay, so if
I
you
got the chat. I'm here. Chat
I-
is under control.
I told him that 3 times, Sonia.
I'd like to look at it.
Okay. At any rate, if you chat to everybody so that we can all see the answer. If an answer is going to come by to just between 2 people, the rest of the group's not going to benefit by
Yeah.
that. And the raise your hand is either in the reactions menu or it's up by participants. And one of those places, if you want to talk, it's a lot easier. For me, it's a lot easier. It takes me forever to
us.
type. Okay.
Good evening and welcome to Free4All Friday. This is our 44th edition. We're coming to you from gardenataz.org.
And we welcome all gardeners to celebrate growing and cultivate problem solving. I'm Janet McConovich.
I'm Stephen Nicola.
And we are in Ontario, in Guelph, at our daughter Sonia's house. She is with us where she is not usually on Fridays. She is with us this week because we've invaded her house and garden. So she'll
In
be
fact, they're in my house. I'm in my garden.
Yes, right.
Yep.
With the dogs. And you know about our website where we put up the things that we've been writing over the years. I was able over the last 3 days to point people to 3 different articles out there out of 1,500 or so. And that's what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to point people toward things that we've already figured out and hear questions that let us figure out new things. So that's what Free4All Friday is about, is to open it wider. This is supported in large part by people who are subscribers to our webinars. We're able to do this and put the time in. It took me most of the day today, as it usually does, to assemble all the things we've been doing the week and the questions we get. And we can do that because we have our webinar subscribers paying the costs of the website, basically. And if there are questions, now is the time. I certainly have a bunch lined up, but if there's anything fresh coming in, now you can open the chat, because I don't have stuff in the corners. Nope.
Don't see anything coming in aside from Martha saying that it is 86 down in South Carolina.
Well, I doubt the temperature in the soil gets below 50 ever in South Carolina. I'm sure it does, but
yeah, it probably doesn't, because so many of these plants, most plants are more sensitive to cold in the soil than they are in the air.
Yeah.
Even a plant that's hardy to zone 3, that's going to go down to 40 degrees below 0. If the roots go below about 20 or 15, they start to die. So I'm sure that it's warmer down there. Are you familiar with Phlomis? Any of you? This is Phlomis russelliana blooming.
The pink.
Blooming pink there. For some reason, I'm not in control here. Stacked up like that.
It looks kind of like a super salvia.
Yeah, or a monarda that went high rise. It has great big leaves too, and they're fuzzy leaves. The deer don't eat them. They eat the campanula that grows right next to it. So I leave the campanula there. They just keep standing there and eating the campanula, but they don't eat Phlomis. I'm going to start off where I ended at our last webinar on Saturday morning. We were talking, getting ready to talk with Richard Hawkey, and we'd used up our time as I got to talking about foundation planting. So since that was the tease, I'm going to finish that foundation plantings don't have to be crammed full of shrubs that sentence us to endless years of pruning.
And they don't have to be close to the house.
Yeah, my story starts with our son, and this is our son's house, putting in egress windows in the basement. And that meant digging up the whole area. Now they want those egress windows to be egress easy, which means we're not going to put shrubs in front of them. If somebody has to climb out of that window, let them climb out of that window. But he doesn't he's not keen on people looking at them, but looking at these things that are there. So right now, there's just a couple of things out there because the whole area got dug up and things got moved around and most of it got taken out. And I drew for him something that we could do. I said, well, we can use the hydrangea that you've got out there already in the fothergilla. It'll be seen in the spring when the hydrangea is cut down. But here are things that we can put in. Blue oat grass. And these are from pictures that Steve took in our various gardens. So it is a real plant, regardless of whether it looks unreal or not. Blue oat grass is a perennial evergreen grass. So it's still green, it's still blue-green in the wintertime. It doesn't have to be cut down, it has to be combed.
Yeah.
Because it does lose some, like pines and arborvitae, it's going to lose some blades and grow new ones. Next to it, we're putting purple leaf tall sedum, one called Back in Black that we're very keen on. Has very dark leaves for most of the spring and fall and stands up straight, stands up in the wintertime like sedum autumn joy. Just that all you'll have to do is cut it down. Feather reed grass to give some height, but not too much height, and not a grass with sharp edges like
No sharp edges.
because somebody's going to climb up that egress window one day, and I don't want them to put their face and hands into something that's sharp.
Yeah.
And we also don't want it to get bigger and bigger and bigger around with a big heavy root that grows underneath edges, pushes them up, and has to be cut up. Feather reed grass, some of the feather reed grass that we've grown has been in place for over 15 years and not needed to be divided.
Or touched.
Yeah. It's a June blooming grass, so it blooms feathery in the top in June, and by September, it's looking like you see in that picture. And then we thought we'll put an evergreen, a small evergreen, or rather one of the slower growing false cypress evergreens that's got some gold to it because we've used a lot of blue and gold elsewhere in the neighborhood, so it gives us some continuity. And then the hydrangea can stay there, and the fothergilla needs to be moved. Those are things that we told them. We said the blue oat grass you might remember from our old home.
Yeah. Don't mistake blue oat and blue lime grass.
No, blue lime grass is great if you're growing on a dune and you need something that'll grow and hold the sand, but it runs like it's being chased.
And it's a beautiful blue.
And it's not evergreen.
That's why I warned you, don't, you'll see this blue and think, oh, well, they don't have blue oat, but this is blue.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
And don't confuse it with blue fescue, which is much smaller and not as blue in the wintertime. What I am impressed with blue oat grass is how drought tolerant it is. In fact, it loves being drier. About half of each of these grasses is on the driveway here at our client Betty's, because it would rather be on the dry side than not. And it does bloom, but sparsely, so there's not a lot of bloom to cut off of it. And in the spring, you can see a little bit of brown underneath the ones in the bottom picture. In the spring, the old blades are distributed throughout the grass, and I put on gloves. What are those? What's that material called on our softer, tough touch gloves? Nitro gloves, something that has a little bit of resistance to it. And I just put my hands in and comb it out with my hands. So see, there's brown in there, and it's time to be combed out. The feather reed grass in the wintertime still stands up. It's not one of those real impressive ones in the wintertime with a flag that develops late in the fall, but the presence, it's still there. If you don't cut it down, you can almost just step it down.
Yeah, it will stand up to most snow but not ice storm.
Right, not an ice storm. You get a heavy snow on it, and it does break.
Heavy snow too, yeah.
And then the sedum back in black, except that it has purple leaves, is very much like autumn joy. Autumn joy is the best of them. It really is. It has the biggest flower.
We still think it is.
And the
Richard Hawk kind of agreed with us.
Hockey,
when we were talking to him.
And there are a lot of plants like that. Sonia, didn't somebody just ask you about your butterfly weed, your Asclepias tuberosa here?
They did, and they described it as, well, normally you have an orange bush in this bed, an orange shrub in this bed, and this was before it had come up at all, about a month ago, and I was very confused till I realized how dense it really looks like. You could set a table on top of it when it's up and blooming.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's also good size. It's the size that people look at and they look at that space that's
Assume
3 feet
it's a
wide
shrub.
along their foundation and say, I can put a shrub in there. Well, the shrub wants to be 6 feet wide or 5 feet
Yeah.
wide and 8 feet tall. So there are a lot of perennials that can be used as shrubs. And if you think about the season of the year that there needs to be an interest there, you can work on them. So I drew this, and that met their approval, our son and daughter-in-law. So the plants are there. Oop.
Oh, what happened?
And they're in the ground now. We could have planted more heavily. There are three of the fall cypresses that are blended into each other from this angle. We could have planted more heavily if you want a flower show display, but
That hydrangea is going to fill that area.
yeah.
These will fill.
And this just happened this week. He just moved the hydrangea and the Fothergilla this week and planted everything and mulched it in, and that will do nicely.
Yeah. You don't need more than that.
Yeah. It will someday look like that as the plants get bigger. So questions?
Yeah, we have a question in from Judy. One of my formerly robust peony plants is now stunted and small. The leaves are pale and reddish / rusty colored. She meant to send a photo but forgot. Do you know what's going on?
The only thing that I can think is it was badly affected by the cold and had some botrytis in its crown. And I would cut it back. I would just cut it right back.
And let it go. See if it comes back
It
better.
either will wait the year, depending on when you cut a peony back. Our son, when he was just a little guy, loved the first flower that he saw on the peony
Yeah.
that I planted out, a little bit of a peony. And the first year that it bloomed, he said, "Oh, that's so pretty. I got to cut that for mom." So he cut the whole plant down. I went, the plant did not come back that year. And the next year I said, "I'm giving up on it." I walked out there and there it
And
was
there it
coming
was.
back. Peonies can take the year off. And if yours was established, then it might do that. But get that foliage out of there because it sounds like you're talking about the
It sounds like
early
botrytis.
stages of botrytis infection. Poor thing.
And then
And can I ask if Judy's saying one of her formerly robust peony plants, if she has other peony plants that are not yet suffering, is there a concern about that botrytis spreading?
Well,
Yes.
there's always a concern about botrytis spreading, but through weak foliage. Yeah, that's right. If it's one of many, what's different about the space where it is? Kind of like Nancy and David with
Yep.
their peony with different colors on it. One side of that peony is probably colder than the other side of the peony. Your peony might have gotten run over by something. It might have gotten sprayed by something. It might have had something spilled on it.
We see differences, more differences in plants when they're near houses, driveways, gardens, and like when you walk through a botanical garden and see a collection, it's different.
And if all of your peonies are the same plant, like my friend Debbie has all the same, her dad's favorite peony, she's divided it many times. So she has 7 peonies, but they're all the same plant. If they're all the same plant and only one of them is the problem, then its location is probably the problem.
Yep.
If you've got all different peonies and this one is in trouble, it could be the variety. Its genes are different.
And I think that's all we have for questions coming in chat at the moment. I don't see anyone with a hand up, but feel free to shout out if you do have a question. Oh, and Judy says thanks for this follow-up question. She says the neighboring plant section has the neighboring plant has a similar section, but the rest of it is fine.
There's something going on there with the environment then.
Yeah.
I have seen incredible instances. Usually when you can see a frost in the morning is the time to look at it. You can get a chimney where there's frost in a circle in an area, and that's the only place that there's frost. It's like somebody shot a ray out of the sky. And that's because if you look up, there's a hole in the branches. They may not even be leafed out, but if there's a space where there are no branches to reflect heat back down to the ground, you'll get a movement of cold air coming down through that hole. So it could be that you've got a frost pocket there, a frost window.
And speaking of frost, I wonder if this could be related. Jean is saying that her peonies never flower. The leaves are healthy. She's wondering, thinking maybe I planted too deep.
No, you didn't plant them too deep. People are told that all the time. Years ago, after I think I got the 5th or 6th letter about my peonies never bloom, I thought, okay. So, and that was back in the days of addresses when people sent me letters and I was writing for the newspaper. So I contacted people, said, do you mind if I come by and take a look at your peony? And all of them said yes. We went, one of them was in Algonac, one of them was in Livonia, one of them was in Ann Arbor. Every one of those peonies had tried to bloom. And at the tips of many of the branches, there were little brown, dried out tips. They
Buds.
didn't even look like buds in many cases. And what's happened to those peonies is as they came up in the spring and were starting to grow, the embryonic flower is developing at the tip, and the tip gets frosted. There goes your flower. And then, as that dead tissue at the tip remains there, it's very susceptible to botrytis infection. It gets infected, and during the summertime, water splashes off of it onto the leaves, and now the plant gets weak, and the botrytis follows the vascular system down into the base. And now every time that the plant comes up, it comes up with the spores of botrytis already there. So what we've told people to do, and has worked for the ones that we've talked to, is cut all of the tops of the peony off and watch those peonies all through the year. Any leaf you see with purple brown spots on it, cut that stem out.
The whole stem.
Just go all the way down to the ground and cut it out. You're not going to kill the peony, but what you're going to do is keep it clean for a year or so. You can, even if you want to, spray it with a fungicide as it comes up. When it first comes up, when it's about 8 inches tall, and when it's just before bloom time, you can use a fungicide. But we've found you don't need to do that. You just need to keep that area clean.
But when you cut those stems down on the ground, if you look at the bottom, you hope they're all white.
White and solid.
That the brown's not going down into the crown of the plant. Then you might as well take the whole plant out.
Yeah, and divide it and get rid of the bad places. Sometimes you have to peel it like it's a bad apple, and you still want to eat a part of the apple. You have to take all the bad parts off. But the hollow stems and the discolored stems don't usually come till later in the summer. If you keep up on it early and watch for those purple and take them off, you're not going to have that problem. I put this.
I was going to say, Judith, I see that you have your mic on. Was that from the earlier conversation, or did you have a question you had to jump in with?
I thought somebody had muted me.
We're not good enough to do that.
No.
Thanks,
I
Judith.
had the people open.
I put this in because I enjoy weeding. I can weed all day long. I was weeding pokeweed for hours the other day. How different plants are all the way around. How bittersweet is so orange at the root, and one of those bad trees that get into everything. Mulberries, the taproot that's so yellow, and tulip trees, the leaves smell nice. It's just the roots smell nice. It's fun noticing these things and telling other people about them. Bittersweet. Steve's been very taken this week. He's taken a lot of pictures of our goat's beard. This is one of the hybrid goat's beards, halfway between the full-size 5-foot goat's beard and the little tiny one that's about a foot or 15 inches tall. And it's in bloom. And every year I say to myself, goat's beard's other name is child of two worlds, because the male and the female plants are separate. And I look at the flowers close to see if I can see, is this a pollen-bearing plant, or is it? And there's so many tiny flowers on it, I can't really tell. And the pollinators are all over it. You don't want to put your face right into it, because they're everything. Flies, bees, wasps are all over
little to big.
Yeah. And this is one of our native species, so it's a nice one to have for the pollinators. The tall one, its other parent is this. And I suspect that this is a female plant. And I will look very closely when I get back home. I suspect that the female plants, because they don't have as showy a flower as the male plants do with all their stamens sticking out. Goat's beard is a great plant to put into the shade. It may take years, like a peony, to get to full size, but even in the shade, underneath evergreen trees, it's going to stand up straight. It'll perform for you.
This one's grown 4 times its original size in 3 years.
Yeah. It's done very well. It is time to summer out. It's time to repot, to clip, to acclimate the indoor garden for the outside. And Sonia was our example here. She has lots and lots of containers on her deck, and the good portion of them are houseplants that come out for the summertime. Sonia, you want to take it from here?
Sure. In fact, I have a special guest star that I can actually bring over.
Okay. Do you want us to turn the share off, and you want to demonstrate with a real plant?
Oh no, that's all right. That's all right. I just thought I'd show you that the plant that we are talking about, to give you a little bit of a sense of size, is one of our two hibisci, as we call them. I'm not sure if that's actually the plural for hibiscus, but we got these from corner stores when we lived in Toronto, just on the street. So we've had them for 14, 15 years now, and they're relatively precious to us. I say relatively because I think they're fine, and my husband thinks they are the best thing ever because he likes big, showy blooms. And every couple of years, I repot them, but they're already at, especially for indoor size. This is as big as I want a uh, a hibiscus to be. So thinking about how to repot when that's the pot that I've taken the pot off and there's no space. There's nothing here. So I opted to cut the bottom off. Sorry, I should say the hibiscuses have not always had wonderful years. Some winters are really hard on them. Sometimes I don't pull them in from our Canadian deck quite as quick as I should in the fall, and they get hit with a cold. And we decided 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Let's see.
2023.
Yeah. 2 years ago, in the fall when I brought them in, I just packed them all the way back. This guy here, same brown pot, told my husband, go to work, don't come back until I'm done, and don't worry about it. And cut everything but kind of the main branches of some left. So now he's doing great. 2 years and he looks wonderful. So I went and got my one of my biggest kitchen knives, the one that gives me cuts all the time. And I guessed at first. I said, all right, let's do, what's that? Almost 2 inches, an inch and a half off the bottom. Thought let's cut the roots off the bottom and give those woody roots a little bit of space to grow. And as I cut in, I found that it was basically like cutting through one of those mats of like the coconut shavings. It's nothing but roots in there, and it was heavy and solid. I think there might be a picture of me trying to push my finger into that mass of roots, and it's just not going. So I took it back. I didn't take the picture, but it was risky enough to hold a knife in one hand and a camera in the other with no one else around for me. So I took it back by another inch and a bit to try and get to the soil part of it.
You took all of this dry part off?
Not quite all of it. I didn't risk doing all the dry part. I took it until I could get my fingers into soil below.
Okay.
But yeah, you can just see how incredibly dense it is there. Cutting through it was not quite like sawing through wood. So then I had a couple inches of space at the bottom of the same pot, and so I put my potting soil in. And plopped him back in, set him next to the hose, and drenched him in, and there he is. And you can see in this picture, looks like there's one bud here, but we've got three buds ready to go, ready to bloom. I honestly can't remember if he's our red or our orange, but he's either red or orange.
And then comes the next step, right?
Yeah. So this is one benefit of the cool spring is that I couldn't bring the houseplants out until only a week ago, really, because it's just been so cold overnight. But that also means that our hops, which are annual and grow up over our deck every year, are now at the point where they're far enough that they can actually produce a shade over the houseplants. So when I first move them outside, I have them all clustered. They're actually still all clustered there. Most of them are still clustered there to let them acclimatize to the sun without getting direct sun and sunburn.
And to clarify, Sonia, you said that the hops is annual. You mean the tops are annual?
Yes, sorry. The plant doesn't die back. It grows entirely from ground every year and goes all the way up and hits our chimney and then some every year and becomes a full green roof. So when it's a nice year and I put the plants out here, there's no shade and the sun just bakes. We're facing south-ish here, so get some heavy sun. And you can see, I don't know if you can see better on the camera here, I missed it with just this set of leaves here. He was just out of the shade cover. Oh, there goes one. Just out of the shade cover of the hops, and you can see how burnt white he is. It's almost completely leached of color because he got burned. So I am sorry, buddy, that I didn't get just the edge of you far enough in.
And
But he should be acclimatized now. By this point, I think I can put him out into the full sun, and he'll be all right.
And the sum of the story is, can you manhandle a plant? Can you cut it back? Can you cut its roots? Can you take it out of a pot and put it back in a pot? Can you abuse it by letting it hang out beyond the shadow of the hops? Yes,
Yeah.
this is the hibiscus that is a house plant,
Yes.
Chinese
Yeah,
hibiscus.
the tropical
Some
ones.
people call it Hawaiian, but it's Hibiscus rosa chinensis. It's originally from Asia. Any questions? I see something about raspberries.
Yes, I was going to ask that in a second, just in case anyone had any houseplant repotting. All right, so Jean wants to transplant her raspberries, which I giggled a little bit at because I was showing Janet around our garden this morning and saying that a lot of my weeding energy goes to keeping my raspberries from taking over the entire bed. They transplant themselves here, but Jean says, should she do it in the late fall or the spring?
Fall is a really good time to move woody plants around, and raspberries, if there's any chance that they're going to fruit for you, moving them now will pretty much eliminate the chance that they're going to fruit. Not entirely, they still
Never
could
know.
fruit, but so I would wait until fall, but not if they're in a place where they don't belong, like Sonia's that have come up going toward the rhubarb. You wait till fall, they're going to have runners going even further out.
Yep.
So transplant them and see what happens. I know this one was the one that wasn't quite in focus, Steve, but it's the one that had the bee in it. I mean, you can almost see the wings going,
Yep.
oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh
Well,
boy.
look at
Look
the
at that
pollen
flower.
sac
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. He's got so much pollen stuffed in his leg, his pouches on his legs that it's probably weighed down.
Yeah.
There are some effects of this long cold start, like we were talking about with the peony, that may be in trouble. And some of the things that have happened may surprise you. Some of them I think are kind of nice. Our blue star, Amsonia, is in full bloom. And the same day that our Amsonia at the library, in front of that south-facing brick wall, is done blooming and beginning to go to seed pods. See that after they bloom, they continue to grow up and they conceal the flowers and the developing seed pods underneath the new foliage. But that much difference between plants. So if you were in a cool space, you had a little later and longer bloom on things than you did where they were warmer. I have not seen our Dutch iris. This is a bulb type iris. It's a cross between the netted iris that blooms real early and the taller, tender irises. And I don't think I've ever seen it in bloom when the swamp milkweed is already as tall as it is. So it waited. I can put it in my mind that when the 4-line plant bug damage has already been turning leaves into toast, that's late for the Dutch iris to be blooming. The fringe tree, I should use Greg Beal sent a picture of his fringe tree, but I brought this one because this fringe tree has been in bloom for 3 weeks, and that's a long time.
That's a long time.
And it's a great time. This fringe tree, it's a wonderful little tree, not much used. Maybe you can see the dead branches sticking out beyond it, and that's one of the reasons. In some places it can die back. It always seems to come back again, but the smell is wonderful. Standing near that fringe tree and have it there for 3 weeks is great. Some intense colors of leaves. The tricolor beech tends to be pinker, deeper colored when the spring is cool. The
yellows,
the gold smoke bush, the gold privets, they're intense flower colors in many cases.
Leaf color.
But you get problems like this is our Kusa dogwood at the Waterford Library, and it was leafing out when one of those cold spells came in. So it killed the tips of the branches, which we needed to prune off because they're true and really dead. And there was some dieback on plants that are otherwise hardy. They tried. Now, they tried at the library to tell me that, well, the same thing happened to your ash tree, locust trees, honey locust trees. We planted 4 honey locusts 4 years ago. We showed you us putting them in. We went quite a ways out of our way, about an hour and a half, to a nursery that we knew produced good root systems in order to have good root systems on these plants. And we put them in, and I said, no, this was not cold damage on this honey locust.
Nope.
Number one, that's not going to bother most honey locusts that they got cold. But number two, the other 2 of them one of them
One here,
and one there. The other two of them are leafed out all the way. And the parking lot is just as cold down there as it is here. The problem is that they used herbicide on the lawn on a windy day. And the closest two honey locusts got hit with herbicide.
They got hit.
Now, the trees that are further away have nice foliage coming out. The foliage that's trying to come back out on other honey locusts is distorted, bumped, out of color. We might lose the trees. We'll have to wait and see. But windy springs are terrible because lawn care companies don't have the flexibility to say, oh, the wind is more than 8 miles an hour. I legally can't spray today. They have a schedule that they're keeping. So they go out and spray anyway.
Because nobody will complain.
And if
nobody will say anything. If you just call our Department of Ag and say they're out spraying on 17-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah. But you have to have a gardener watching. The plantings in commercial locations and public locations are really hard to keep an eye on.
It's so frustrating to put in that kind of effort and have those trees doing what they were, and then bam.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, Teresa's been out to the Odolph Gardens on Belle Isle. They are beautiful gardens. Look at Steve. Remember I said that I wondered which time was going to make it to the road first and whether the golden time would do all right now. Look at that. It has surged out there.
It's going to go into the road next.
Yeah, I might have to protect the woolly time from the golden time, for crying out loud.
Well, it's starting to take it over a little bit.
Yeah, we shall see how that
I'm jealous of your peony collection there. It makes me wish that I had more we just have two peony plants from the same plant, and that combo looks really nice. Are the whites are the singles that you had with the picture of the bee?
Right, the whites are the singles.
This one has been marked for removal.
Yes, every year in the fall I tell Steve, oh shoot, I forgot which one it is that lays on top of the other ones and makes them fall down. And there's two pink ones side by side, and it's the third one in the row of 4. Counting from the west. Now I'm going to remember we have a picture.
Yeah.
That I'm going to dig out because I prefer taking pieces of people's peonies that stand up straight. We have one that's pink that's growing back. It's just bloomed for its first year. It's back in here.
Back in there. You might have saw a little bit of it in the.
It's a single pink and it doesn't fall down, and it's what we want to have
in an earlier picture.
Garden. I was real pleased that our red feather. This is an Echium, Echium.
The red.
This is Echium something or other called red feather. And it's supposed to be a biennial. Most of the Echiums don't even grow as perennials for us. Some of them are 6 feet tall with blue flowers, and I just pant over them when I see them. But they're tender. Can't stand the winters here. This one, they said, can stand the winters, but it's biennial. Well, it lived for 4 years.
4 years now. And this is the first year that the flowers are straight. Every other year they were distorted and crooked. And
so Steve tells me, I didn't even notice.
I take the pictures.
But it seeded itself because this plant that you see blooming here is coming up just at the outside edge of where the flowers of the one that was original fell over. So we're glad to see something. I can't really call it red, but it's a nice color.
Teresa is asking a loaded question for this particular family. Does the woolly thyme have blooms? If so, color, season. Mine does.
Hers does, ours doesn't.
I'm tempted. I could walk around and show you the woolly thyme blooming. If you guys want to vamp for a minute.
It doesn't bloom thick, even where it does bloom. It blooms here and there on the plant.
Right.
But ours, she's going to show it off.
Getting a little, you gotta go into the
picture of it, but I didn't put the picture in because I'm so jealous.
Took them earlier too.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I thought I could be outside so that we could do some live action. So here are my two boring pink peonies. Just boring. They were one of the plants that were with the house when we moved in the middle of my tomato bed, so they have been since moved. All right, so here's my woolly thyme. It is part of my soften the edge of this retaining wall. So he's got, I would call them a lavender color, a very sweet little pinky lavender color. I don't know if that's coming through on.
Yes, yeah, we can see the
pinky lavender. Pink. The flowers are very small.
Yeah, and I haven't noticed. Are there pollinators on it? Have you noticed?
I have noticed before flies mostly. There's some ants crawling around on here. currently. I mean, it's a little late in the day for me usually seeing bees, but flies I definitely see, and flies are pollinators. Um,
Patch
yeah,
of woolly
there's
thyme you have by the road has far less flower on it, I think.
yeah, yeah. So down by the road, down in the rock garden, yes, the woolly thyme down here. Love your garden. Thank you. Woolly thyme down here does not bloom, but then we've got this little guy that is not a woolly thyme. Um,
That's,
that
I
is
think,
some
mountain
other kind
thyme.
of thyme that also has a very similar little precious flower.
Cool plants.
Margie, I think I see your hand.
Yeah. Somebody has some. Margie?
Oh, Margie. Go for it, Margie. Turn your microphone on. We can turn it off, but we can't turn it on for you.
I've clicked the ask to unmute.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
did.
Unmute.
There
Oh,
we go.
There she
there we
is.
are.
Hi, hi,
Margie.
hi. You there?
Yes,
Yep.
we're here. What can we do for
Oh,
you?
good. Oh, about the bees, that little, me and my neighbors and I, we all noticed today there aren't very many bees out. There should be so many. Just a comment.
And we hope that that's not an overall picture, but we're not seeing very many pollinators either. Our service area is loaded with fruit, though, so they must have been there,
They
despite the
must have
fact
been
that we
there.
weren't seeing them.
And, on there's been years where I've taken pictures of that ghost beard where this year I had 3 pollinators in one picture. Other years I've had as many as 10 or 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does seem a little light, but
Yeah.
things go cyclical in nature. We don't.
Yeah.
And
Like not normally the Chinese privet is full of bees right now. It's just gorgeous this year. And my um, 9-bark full of blooms, but not a lot of bees and butterflies. Yeah.
yeah, we just hope that it's just an annual problem, like Steve says, a dip in the normal cycle, because we've got far less bees,
We lose bees. We're
far
screwed.
less insects across the whole world.
Yeah.
Far less birds than the North American
Birds, butterflies.
Most of the North American birds are down, their populations are down 40 to 50% since 1970.
Ay.
Some of them worse than that. But
Yeah.
we're the salvation. We really
Yeah. I did get a compliment at my HOA meeting for talking.
good.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear that your HOA that has been such a thorn in your gardener's side.
Yeah.
Yep, good.
Yeah. It was a good meeting. All right. Talk to you later.
Okay.
We were talking a couple Fridays ago too about, the animals that get our conservation attention and those that don't have the charisma to. And when we're not seeing the bees and the butterflies, but we do see the fruit on the trees, we can maybe think about the fact that the ones we might not like as much are also doing their job. The wasps, the hornets, the ones that we don't think of as quite maybe as friendly pollinators are still out there and deserving of our thanks for that too.
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
Steve and I are
Lost.
arguing over who gets a clicker on his machine. Perspective is what I want to talk about here.
I went back. Sorry.
How much things can change. People can go from kill bugs to loving bugs, from calling something an irritating worm and finding out that it's something else. Whoops, wrong way, Janet. The very first year that I was gardening in our old house, I had spent the first year just ripping things out. There was grapevine growing on top of everything, and there were barberries I didn't want, and there was burning bushes by the too many. I went out to our snowmount spirea, walked out this time of year and looked at it and went, oh my God, you are covered with aphids. And I ran out to the store and bought some insecticide and sprayed the plant and was pleased with myself that I'd killed the aphids. The next year I was pregnant and I walked out to the plant and said, I'm really sorry, you're on your own. And it was the last time I ever used insecticide.
Mm-hmm.
Now I was walking out to the spirea. This is an upright spirea, but blooms about the same time as the snowmount spirea. I was out to harvest some twigs. I needed some little tiny twigs to use for a project. And as I reached out, I went, oh my gosh, what's happened to you? Is this mildew already? Because there are some plants that are terribly mildewed already. It got dry after being cold. The leaves were stressed. I said, oh no, wait. As I reach in and look closer, you're loaded with aphids. And I thought, good, aphids, chickadees, come over here. Entirely different reaction to the
Mhm.
same kind of problem, because it's not going to hurt this plant, not to any great extent. This plant grows like a weed anyway. And I would have cut those twigs off to use for something, let them feed the aphids. The ants are there because they farm aphids the way that a dairy farmer works. They will come and take the excess. The aphids are pumping liquid out of the plant and using the sugars in it. And they have to pump, like when we tap a tree, they have to pump a lot of liquid to get the sugar they need. So they are excreting liquids that the ants take and use themselves. Sometimes ants will actually take aphids. I don't know which kind of ants and I don't know which kind of aphids, but it does happen that at the end of the year, the ants will take some aphids and carry them down into their colony and keep them over the winter, just like we keep and feed cows over the winter for the sake of still having milk and then being able to put them out on the grass fields later. And that's just a perspective change. Same thing goes with honeysuckle. Honeysuckle is another plant that is just uh, it like you talk about bread and butter, you talk about honeysuckle and aphids. And right now, it's a different aphid. It's not the it's green pea aphid, green
Yeah.
bean aphid. Green peach aphid, I think, is the one that's on the spirea. This is a different one, but it's doing the same thing. It's sucking liquids out. And so some of these flowers are not going to open because they've lost enough liquid to be able to do that. This is a harlequin honeysuckle, a variegated honeysuckle that's also spore reverted. So there's some all green branches as well. And Sonia was pointing out her gooseberry shrub. She said every year something just eats all the leaves. I said, well, something is eating the leaves, and just like the columbine. This is a sawfly, and I know it's a sawfly, even though I haven't looked it up yet, which one it is. Count the legs on its for, Steve. Not the front legs, the pro legs, the ones that are false legs.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it has more than 5 pairs of pro legs, those are not real legs. The real legs are up there. There's 3 of them. You can see 3 black
One, two,
dots.
three.
And that's what insects have, 6 legs, right? 3 pair. If it's got more than 5 pair behind it, it's not a caterpillar, and you can't kill it with BT, which only kills moth and butterfly larvae. So this is a squisher, or as Sonia and I were discussing, well, we can take a leaf inside that's got, see the 3 of them on there. There's one there, little one, little one. We can take it inside and we can mix up some Murphy's oil, soap, and water and spray it on it and see whether it gasps and I can't breathe, and dies. I mean, we can see what's effective on it, or we can just say this plant keeps coming back gangbusters.
It's fine.
But
I
if
mean,
you
we don't get gooseberries off of it, but it does fill the space at least.
Yeah. So you can ask yourself, is it worth it? Because this is food for the birds. And remember, we've been talking about the fact that the birds are downhill, or their populations are going downhill, and they need moist protein to feed the young. Either they're going to eat stuff and put their own moisture into it and then regurgitate it to the young, or they're literally going to take and stuff caterpillars into the mouths of their babies. And so we're delighted. We were talking before we officially started about whether we're seeing any of the American lady caterpillars. We saw a little bit. There have been years when the tops of our entire patch of Pearly Everlasting are knitted together like these few are here. But this year we're finding them, and then they're not there anymore. And we think either the birds are hunting them, or as Sonia says, there's always a spider lurking on them.
Always a spider. The spittle bugs, like Janet and Steve's picture from I think webinar last week. So always spittle bugs, but boy, there are always spiders on my Pearly Everlasting.
Yeah, so we're thrilled when we see the caterpillars that we've been growing these plants for. There's pussy's toes down near the ground, and those are knit together, and we say, okay, please make it.
Yep.
Now, the nice thing about nature is if even 2 butterflies make it out of your head, they can lay so many eggs. So the numbers can come back up. That's what happens when people say, well, I never had 4-line plant bug before. Yeah, you did. You just didn't have enough of them to really notice them. Now you've got a big year.
Mother Nature does an amazing job of regenerating. We just watched a thing on the ocean, David Attenborough. That
if you have not watched Ocean,
highly recommended it.
Please watch it. It will make you cry as well as it'll make you just be astounded at the beauty of nature.
Yep.
And we do things like This is a kiwi vine, and they're huge vines. This is kind of like wisteria or
Big.
grapevine. You don't put a kiwi vine in and expect it to stay on a 6-foot arbor. I've got it on an arbor that goes, how wide is it? 12 feet wide.
Yeah,
And it
maybe.
goes up about 10 feet. And I said, you could grow on that. But even there, after it's done blooming, and it's just finished blooming now, I'm going to cut the stretching branches that are going off where they shouldn't go and try to twine them in.
Yep.
But I'm not touching this one. It's closing the arbor right up on this other arbor. But there is a robin's nest right
about
here. And you can't get within 10 feet of that
Without
arbor
him coming.
yeah, Robin, the male
Both
is
of them.
watching all the time.
Then if you get too close, both of them start
Yeah.
bouncing at you.
Yeah, and that's so okay. We'll walk around. We won't take that path right now. I'll cut those branches later. The later that I cut them, the less chance that they're going to bloom the next year. But perspective, that's what you look at. We saw this moth this week. It was it appears to have either run into our window or run out of life at the window and was about dead. But I looked at it and I said, "Wow, what is that there?" When flipped over, I went, "Oh, it's called an orange underwing."
Oh, that's the
Great
name.
And guess what it is before it's a moth?
It's a nasty little worm that eats my gooseberries.
No, not
No.
that. That's a softfly.
Yeah.
This one is a
Okay.
lepidoptera. It is a moth. It's a cutworm. And how many times have we said those darn cutworms? They
Cutworm.
hide in the soil and then they come up and take my little seedlings off.
Yep.
I had never really looked up what cutworms turn into, and it's not all
One
cutworms. It's one
particular.
type of cutworm.
Yeah. And I was just making the point that all of these little guys that are causing us headaches are also giving us a lot of joy. We had a clarification on the time in your yard, the ones that were racing to the driveway, Carol says. The yellowy one. Is it golden time? Is it what is the
It's golden time. It's
so
time.
the
time is
Pulejoides aureus?
Orium.
I thought it was
I thought it was
Serpulum
Orium, but
Okay, so she put in all she can find is Thymus pulejoides.
They may have changed the name on me. I first bought that plant as Thymus serpulum, which is mother of thyme, golden variety Orium. I can't tell you if they changed the name because I never paid attention. I never had to buy another plant.
yeah. No.
Actually, we bought that plant when Sonia was a little girl
Yeah.
and had a thyme garden because we were reading fiction stories by Edward Eger about the half magic kids had a thyme garden.
Yeah, so Thymus serpulum I'm still getting, but when I add the golden, Mountain Herb Estate down in South Africa is still calling it Thymus serpulum.
So it's probably
Serpyllum.
Probably had a name change. It's been a long time, and there are a lot of doctoral students in taxonomy. They need to write a paper on something, and
Yep.
if they can find a difference and make a new classification, that makes their PhD.
But if Carol went to look for golden time, that would probably give her the one.
Yeah.
I doubt very much that you'd miss if it's golden, if it has Orium or Aureus in its name. There are some that have just a little bit of gold on the leaf as opposed to having a whole gold leaf, and I think those are called they're called Aureal sulcata or something like that. It's not just Orium. Another thing on perspective, I always thought that purple coneflowers were long-lived. I had purple coneflowers for a long time, but as Richard Hawkey told us last week at the webinar, he said they're short-lived plants, and people say they reverted and changed color.
Mhm.
I said, no, they didn't. They got a seedling in them. Well, how could I have a
Yeah.
seedling in the plant and not notice it? Do you notice the seedling here? That's a seedling penstemon in Steve's purple penstemon, and it's an all-green leaf. Now, if it had purple leaves, would you notice it? No, you wouldn't even notice
Nope.
it. It would just grow along with the rest, and when the older
Yep.
plant died, there'd be the other one to take over.
But that color with that flower color,
Steve
I'm
wants it as
keeping
a
an eye
beaver.
on that one.
Yeah. And he's seeing spots. Help me, Doc, I'm seeing spots. It's been a cold, wet spring in a lot of places, certainly for us. And that means that there's been a long period of time when leaves were slowly developing, and slowly until they are mature, they don't have a cuticle like a tough skin around them. And so the fungus that are spreading around and giving most of us hay fever, that can't handle fungal spores, that fungus has had a long time to infect. So things like elm, this elm is dropping leaves all over the place,
Like crazy.
which is not a problem for an elm. It's just going to grow new leaves. But
Yeah.
if enough of the leaf is damaged that it can't function properly. The tree
The tree
just
says,
says,
"See ya."
gone. And Sonia's hibiscus, the one that she just repotted, she said, what's going on with this? I said, well,
Actually,
let's
this is
look.
the other one, just to be clear.
Oh,
This is the second.
sorry. This is the other hibiscus. She said, something's going on with this one. I said, well, it's a leaf spot. It's almost certainly a fungal infection of some kind. And I haven't looked that one up. Let's see what we can get. You need to look at the shape and the color of fungal spots to figure out what it is that you're looking at. I said, okay,
I'll,
kind of brown black.
I'll note that the Band-Aid on my thumb there is because I had just cut the other hibiscus, and I'm not always great with a kitchen knife. So just to come back around to my concerns about holding phones and using knives at the same time.
I did wonder about that, yes. So I looked at that, and in looking for what it could be, I came up with two things it could be. This one is a fungal leaf spot, and it comes from a website that's meant for the greenhouse growers, because Rosa chinensis, Hibiscus rosa chinensis, or the tropical hibiscus, is a great pot plant. They grow greenhouse acres of it under greenhouse roof. Um, and the symptoms are it's a large circular or irregularly shaped leaf spots. Sometimes leaf spots are angular on the edges. Sometimes they're tiny and they coalesce into bigger spots, and you have to kind of watch them develop. Watching her, looking at her plant now, and I'm sorry I didn't take a picture of it this morning when I looked at Sonia, it looks like this fungal one with a yellow halo around it. And I see that this is a bacterial leaf spot, and it's also got the angle, but it has an area of red brown. Oh, it's going to bring a leaf in. We're going to stop our share so you can see the leaf.
She's gonna go. I gotta put
Okay.
in her height.
Just stop share. Stop share.
I will just bring the plant over. I don't know, the lighting is
Stop the
starting to
screen.
drop here.
Okay.
So, and if you look at him from the top side, he doesn't look bad, right? So those pictures of the top side, like top side, it's just that I was noticing the yellowing. So here's a
Back side of a leaf. Now, one of the
yeah,
leaves on
and
one side.
you can see the spots through, but
Yep.
there's no spots on the top side, right?
Right
Top
there.
side, so it doesn't go through. It just, and then they turn yellow. There hasn't been a lot of leaf loss.
There was one leaf that I saw that actually had a yellow aura around it, and a chunk of it was gone.
Yeah. So
Here we go. So
Yeah.
see, look
although
at
this has been
aura.
rare, that's not how it's been progressing typically. Although I've been pulling the yellows off before I guess it gets to this point.
And when we looked it up to learn about it, it makes sense that it doesn't progress very far, because this is a problem that growers in a greenhouse, share back on, growers in a greenhouse, it says in general, these plants are discarded if they get this spot. And that's because it's associated with water, with too much humidity. And as Sonia says, not in my house in the winter.
Absolutely not. Overwatering is not a sin that I that I succumb to here.
So it was weakened and it got the fungus infection, but the fungus is not able to progress in most cases out to the part where it can go. So take a look and go past the first things that come up on a Google search. Take a good picture of what you're doing. Put it into Google or Bing or whatever search you do. Tell it to look for images, and then pick the ones that are edu or .org with because they're going to tell you what it is and let you compare pictures, which is what you want to do. I did not go online with this one. First thing I did was we have a pocket-sized book. This fits in the pocket of the greenhouse grower, so they can walk through, and it's by our great expert Marjorie Dowdy, who writes great pest problems, where you can go through and just look. And it doesn't tell you what to do about it. It helps you identify what they are, because then you go to your other books and sources and look at what it is. Botrytis, lots of different things get botrytis of their own kind. Any questions about that? We don't have too much time left. If there's questions, we'll take your questions. Otherwise, we're going on.
I was going to say, my dog out here on the deck has started scratching the door where she can see through to Janet and Stephen, and then just standing there with her nose in there to say, it's 2 minutes left, 2 minutes left.
Yeah. And as Sonia explained to me while I was working away today, she said, "You've got enough for next Friday now." I said, "Yep, I probably do. But by next Friday, there'll be more again, and some of them will be more timely." So are there any questions?
We do try to be timely.
Want to click the questions?
I am not seeing any questions in the chat.
Okay, well, good then. People are enjoying their gardens and not worrying about them or making big plans right now. And it's great. It's a great time to enjoy your garden.
Yep.
It's lush. It's beautiful. For the most part, you can get away without even deadheading anything. Although I've got some bad looking leaves on that allium. I wish the giant alliums did not have such terrible looking leaves by the time they bloom. Yeah. And Sonia asked whether the lupins that we've been growing from Axel, great uncle Axel's seed, could they be pink? Do you see the pinkish color on the top of the purple one there, Sonia? Yeah.
Yep.
See, there you can get almost any color.
Color.
Our lupins, we have been like great uncle Axel. We have been selecting.
Selected.
If we get one that's pink, I don't let it go to seed. I enjoy the flowers, cut it down. Don't let it go to seed. And that's given us more purples and purple and whites and blues, which is what he liked.
I've been happy with mine going to pink because it also has bloomed later by almost a full cycle later. So I think I'll keep my pink.
I would keep that one, I think.
Get a little bit more, but
I
also
more-
I might have hallucinated. You know, when sleepwalking, I like sleep planted. Maybe I bought a lupin. It doesn't seem likely, but maybe
does-
I bought a lupin and put it in there.
Oh shoot,
Unlikely.
all white ones.
It does have a deeper pink than these.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've had all
so-
white ones too.
Yep.
In the neighbor's garden that we made just adjacent to this garden, there are probably 150 lupins seedlings coming up that will bloom next year. And I'll try to keep a lot of
See
them.
what they,
And I'll look for differences in the leaf. For instance, the snapdragons that seed themselves in, you can tell which ones are going to be red or pink because they've got reddish color on the underside of the leaf and the stem.
oh,
So you can look for some of these differences and say, oh, your leaf looks a little, it's how a grower does it. They go, oh, I think you might be different. You're later, you're earlier, you're taller, you're bigger, you're greener, you're bluer. They look for those things and see what happens. Well, so that's it. We'll call that all of it for Free for All Friday today. I hope you have a great gardening weekend. We're looking forward to it. I don't know
Yep.
what we're going to do. We're starting out at the farmer's market tomorrow. And then maybe going and looking at a garden. We don't know. We might be looking at a natural garden called the Elora. Is it the Elora Gorge?
Yeah, the Elora Gorge. It's a conservation area, just a bit.
Tony Reznachek, who you've all heard here on our webinar, for those of you who are webinar subscribers have, Tony Reznachek has urged us, go see the Elora Gorge. He is also a native of this area.
Yep.
So thank you for being here. And we'll be back next Friday. That's on the 20th. And that'll be our 45th episode here. And I think that's probably all we need to do. We do have, I didn't update this. Sorry. Don't look.
just subscribe.
Everything's easier if you subscribe.
We were warmly and graciously welcomed last night when we spoke to an environmental ecological group called Green Drinks here in Guelph. They said, you're some of the Americans that we still like. I think most of us gardeners could get by that way.
I
Thank
think
you.
gardeners can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all, everybody.
See you next week.
Have a great
Email us or
time.
text us if you've got a question.